Welcome to MogulCast, where we uncover the stories behind the world's greatest business empires. Let's get into today's story.
September 4th, 1998. Titled, Two Stanford PhD students file paperwork for a company no one has heard of. By the end of the decade, it will control more than 90% of the world's search traffic. Today, Google processes over 8.5 billion searches every single day. But in that dorm room, they had no idea what was coming. This is the full story, and it is worse and more brilliant than you think. Larry Page and Sergey Brin weren't trying to build an empire. They were just two grad students obsessed with organizing the internet's chaos. In 1996, they created a search engine called Backrub. Yes, real, running on Stanford servers. It was so resource-heavy, the university's entire network slowed down. But one decision they made in those early days would later define everything. In 1998, Backrub was renamed Google, a play on the word Google, representing the vast scale of information they wanted to organize. But they had no business model, no revenue, and no clear path to survival. Then, in August 1998, a single check arrived. It was for $100,000, and it came from a name that would change everything. Andy Bechtolsheim, co-founder of Sun Microsystems. We will come back to one specific decision. It is the key to everything. With Bechtolsheim's money, Google moved out of the dorm and into a garage in Menlo Park. The team was tiny, just a handful of engineers. But their search engine was already better than anything else. By the end of 1998, Google was handling 10,000 searches a day. By 1999, that number exploded to 500,000. Investors started noticing, but not everyone was celebrating. In June 1999, Google raised $25 in funding from two of Silicon Valley's most powerful firms, Sequoia Capital and Kleiner Perkins. The valuation? Over $100 million. But the real breakthrough came when they realized something no one else had. Search could be monetized. Not with banner ads, but with tiny, unobtrusive text links. The AdWords system was born, and it would make Google unstoppable. Here's what the media completely got wrong about Google's rise. They thought it was just about better search. But the real genius was the auction system behind AdWords. Advertisers bid for keywords, and Google's algorithm ranked them not just by price, but by relevance. This wasn't just advertising. It was a revolution, and it made Google billions. But there was a catch. In 2000, Google struck a deal that would change the internet forever. They became the default search engine for Yahoo, a partnership that gave them access to millions of users overnight. But the real power move came in 2002 when they signed a similar deal with AOL. By 2004, Google was processing over 200 million searches a day. And then they went public. August 19, 2004. Google's IPO. The company was valued at $23 billion. But the real shock came when the stock price doubled on the first day of trading. Wall Street had never seen anything like it. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Regulators were starting to ask questions, and competitors were getting crushed. By 2006, Google's market share in search had reached 65%, and it was only going up. By 2010, Google controlled over 85% of the search market. But with that power came scrutiny. The European Union launched an antitrust investigation, accusing Google of abusing its dominance. In the US, lawmakers started asking tough questions. And then, in 2012, the unthinkable happened. Google lost a major patent battle to Oracle. The tech world held its breath. Was this the beginning of the end? The Oracle lawsuit was just the first domino. By 2017, the EU had fined Google $2.70 billion for antitrust violations. 2 years later, another $1.70 billion fine followed. And in 2021, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a landmark lawsuit, accusing Google of maintaining an illegal monopoly. The company that started in a dorm room was now facing the fight of its life. And if you've made it this far, you already understand something most analysts completely miss. Despite the legal battles, Google's dominance only grew. By 2020, the company was processing over 5.6 billion searches per day. Android, acquired in 2005, now powers over 70% of the world's smartphones. YouTube, bought in 2006, streams over 1 billion hours of video every day. And Google Cloud, once an afterthought, is now a $30 billion business. The empire was expanding, but at what cost? Remember that decision we mentioned at the start? The one made in a Stanford dorm room? It wasn't about search. It was about speed. Larry Page insisted that Google's search results had to load in under a second. That obsession with speed became the company's DNA. But it also set precedent. Google would always prioritize user experience over everything else, even if it meant crushing competitors. And that decision would come back to haunt them. By 2025, Google's parent company, Alphabet, was worth over $2 trillion. The company employs over 190,000 people worldwide. It controls more than 90% of the search market, and its advertising business generates over $200 billion in revenue every year. But the legal battles aren't over. And the question remains, can anything stop Google now? Here's the lesson no one wants to learn. Google didn't win because it was first. It won because it was ruthless. The company didn't just build a better search engine. It built an ecosystem that made it impossible to leave. From Gmail to Maps to Android, Google's products are woven into the fabric of the internet. And that's the real power. Not just dominance, but dependence. If you want to understand how this pattern repeats across every major tech empire, the next video covers a story with disturbing parallels. A company that started with a simple idea grew into a monopoly and then faced the consequences. That one is next.
That's the story for today on MogulCast. If you found this valuable, subscribe and hit the bell. A new empire story drops every single weekday. See you tomorrow.